In the words of a great philosopher. We don't have time to unpack all of that. Hello, geeks, freaks, and all those unique. This is EmceeFrodis, and we're talking about The Mandalorian, Chapter 16, The Rescue, and holy crap. Um, yeah, there's a lot to talk about in this episode. First, a brief synopsis. We have Din with Boba Fett and Fennec Shan and Cara Dune, and they get Bo-Katan Kryze and the other Mandalorian, who unfortunately I can't remember the name of, and they are going to go and rescue Grogu from Moff Gideon. And then everything you could think of happening happens in this episode. So, I think like the first big thing is so much of this episode is fight scenes. There's, shooting fight scenes, there's sword fight scenes, and I think the fight scenes in this are really, really good. Like, in a way that we have not really seen in Star Wars. I like just the unfettered army just going straight towards the goal. It brought a tear to my eye when I realized that it was Din and 4 women who were going into this, whatever the ship is called. It's not a Star Destroyer. It's like a light cruiser or something like that. But yeah, it's Din and an Amazon brigade, and I'm here for it. So here for it. Was really great to see. We rarely get that many women in a Star Wars anything. There's usually like the one token, maybe 2. But it was so nice to see just that many butt-kicking women just going for it. And I loved the interaction between the Mandalorians. They did not get along with each other. They all have different views, and they're all kind of different types of Mandalorians. You have Bo-Katan, who is a very traditional Mandalorian. She is, I think, when people who know about the Mandalorian people, she's what you think of, like the actual Mandalorian people. For the general public, Mandalorians are Boba Fett. But we see here Bo-Katan pointing out that not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters. That's actually not very common with the Mandalorians because of their honor code. But yeah, so we have these different Mandalorians who are coming together and not getting along, and, pointing out that if they fought as well against the Empire as they fought against each other, Mandalore would never have been taken. That's just a great observation. But really, this episode is about it's called The Rescue, so of course that's what it's about. And the fight between Moff Gideon and Din was fantastic. Like, he got that Beskar staff, so we knew that was going to have to be used against the Darksaber. Beskar and lightsabers are natural enemies, so of course they're going to be used against each other. And it was great to be able to see the Darksaber in action, in live action. And yeah, the implications of of Din winning. I think that they did a really good job of explaining what the Darksaber is for people who haven't seen the Clone Wars and Rebels without bogging it down too much like you do. You know that it's very much like this Excalibur King Arthur situation where whoever wields the Darksaber rules Mandalore. And then there's also like this Elder Wandy kind of thing where it's got to be one in combat. So, obviously some people have brought up the fact that the last time Bo-Katan got the Darksaber, it was just handed to her by Sabine Wren. I think that's entirely the reason why Bo-Katan is so insistent on winning it this time, because obviously she wasn't able to hold on to it. Whether Gideon used that against her to turn the Mandalorians against her, whether or not they turned against her just because they knew that Bo-Katan hadn't won it in combat, or maybe just Bo-Katan realized how badly things turned out last time and feels that she needs to do things properly this time. But, you know, complex characters, and certainly Bo-Katan has always been a complex character, and absolutely here for that. I'm wondering what's going to happen with Din now having the Darksaber, because certainly Bo-Katan has been very heroic in what we've seen of her on The Mandalorian. But this is kind of a new thing for her. On Rebels, she was okay, but on the Clone Wars, like, most of it was not very good. So if she's put into a situation where she's against Din, I think that she'll absolutely be against him. I don't think she has any loyalty to him. I think she has loyalty to Mandalore. And I think that that's going to play a part in things going forward. And I mean, I can't believe I've gotten this far into my review and haven't even talked about it yet. Because this is the thing that's going to be the headline of every single review of this, and most people are going to be talking about. And that's, we get to see the Jedi that Grogu contacted. Or, we got to see the Jedi that Grogu contacted at some point. I actually don't know if Grogu contacted the Jedi on the Seeing Stone. I have a theory about that. I'm wondering if Grogu reached out with the Force during this fight, because Grogu knew that it was going badly. It did seem like they had some reaction shots where Grogu was kind of like figuring out what was going on, and certainly he knows things, so it wouldn't surprise me if he reached out to Luke, and Luke had been looking for him, but it was kind of this final push to go find him. And so yes, I've dropped the name of who it was. Luke Skywalker. Luke freaking Skywalker. I'm in the Eastern time zone, so the episode drops at 3 a.m. for me. So around 3:30 this morning, my dad woke up to the sound of me screaming. By the way, my dad is on a different floor of the house to me, so I was so loud that he could hear me on a different floor. Because as soon as I saw that X-Wing, I was just like, no, oh, but who else? Like, but no, they wouldn't. Like, really? I never in a million years thought that it would actually come to this. But, oh my god, Luke frickin' Skywalker. Luke Skywalker himself makes an appearance in Return of the Jedi era Luke Skywalker, and this fight scene, like this whole scene was just so, first of all, I think the score is what really makes it for me, because, I mean, like, the scene itself is very cool, but just the atmospheric music just sends it just over the top. It's beautiful. Where everybody is waiting for the Dark Troopers to come in, and they know that it's, you know, not going to turn out well. This is their last stand, but they're going to go out fighting, and Gideon is taunting them, and then you have this X-Wing come in, and the music, you know, comes up, but you just see this billowing cloak, and then this lightsaber taking out the Dark Troopers, and the hand coming up and flicking the troopers away. And, you know, first it's just through the security footage, but then you see it in real life, and you see that it's this green lightsaber, and you know who it is. And I mean, I already knew who it was as soon as I saw the X-Wing, but just, oh my god. And this fight scene for Luke is what the hallway fight scene was for Darth Vader in Rogue One. It is an amazing fight scene. Like, we're finally getting to see lightsaber fights the way they were supposed to be. Like, if you go back and look at the original trilogy, like, the fight scenes weren't all that great. But then you get into, like, the prequels, and, like, that's something I will give the prequels. The prequels had some really good fight scenes. And then you get into the sequel trilogy, and then you get some, like, the fight on the Supremacy is still one of my favorites. But the Rogue One fight with Darth Vader, and then this one with Luke, are just the one-man army, and, like, you entirely believe, like, that this is that this is possible. And because they had such a strong fight with the Amazon Brigade, which is what I'm going to be calling them for the moment, and all of the stormtroopers, and between Din and Moff Gideon, I don't feel like having Luke come in at the end is a cheat. Like, in any other circumstance, I would just be like, oh, ex machina, like, Luke's gonna come in and save the day. But with this, it felt earned, because they have been setting up that Luke, or that a Jedi was going to be coming into things. And I never thought it would be Luke. I never thought that they would actually, like, bring him in. But the way they set it up, it had to be Luke. Like, you could not take this scene and plug Ezra in, because there would just be too many questions. And frankly, I don't think that Ahsoka would have just been, well, you know, go to the Seeing Stone and maybe a Jedi will show up. I don't think Ahsoka has met Luke. I think that may come. There's many questions about things. But if Ezra were around to be able to train Grogu at this point, I think Ahsoka would have just said that outright. And that didn't happen. So I think that, yeah, it had to be Luke, because Luke doesn't know Ahsoka yet. That's going to be something we're going to see happen. And the moment we saw Luke, like when he pulled back his hood and it's Luke Skywalker, I was so happy. It's, you know, it's Return of the Jedi era Luke Skywalker, and just being able to see him it was great. I know there are people who have complained about the uncanny valleyness of Luke's face, but I feel differently than a lot of people with the CGI faces, and I've always felt differently about this. Like, I've made jokes about, like, Carrie Fisher and Cushing in Rogue One, but I honestly never had a big problem with it. And I didn't have a problem with this. I mean, yes, do I see that it's fake? But the thing is, I know that Mark Hamill is not in his late 20s now. So I'm fully accepting of the fact that this is computer generated. And it's the same way with the Marvel movies. I know all of those actors are in their 70s, and we're seeing them in their 30s. But I'm okay with that. I can accept it. Yes, it does look a little dodgy, but you've got to just accept that they're not going to get it perfectly. And the technology is close enough that I don't mind them using it. Now, do I think that they shouldn't do it? Like, you can't make a Luke Skywalker series right now. But having him in for 2 minutes at the end of the episode, that's fine. It's fine. And it was so nice to see him. The only problem I did have with it is, okay, well, no, I had a couple of problems, but the problem with the actual scene itself is that Luke lacked a little personality. Now, granted, it wouldn't surprise me if Luke had just gone full-blown important Jedi Master, because he's had some shades of that. But deep down, he's a dorky-ass farm boy from Tatooine, and I would have liked to have seen him at least smile at Grogu. And, okay, so you didn't have Ahsoka say Baby Yoda, but you're telling me that Luke Skywalker wouldn't say Baby Yoda? Like, why? Like, come on. Like, Luke's a big dork. He could have totally said Baby Yoda. But I know, like, the situation was super serious. And it was the perfect moment for Din to reveal his face to Grogu. And I was tearing up when, Grogu touched his face, and just Din with the tears in his eyes. And you know that this is the first time anybody's touched his face since he was a child. And just how big a deal of it was. And neither of these two actually want Grogu to go. And like I said, I believe that Grogu only called Luke to them to save everybody in that room. And so that it was kind of almost like a sacrifice for him. It's like, okay, so I'm actually going to go with the Jedi to save my dad and his friends. And so I mentioned I had a problem with this scene. I adored seeing Luke come to the rescue. I mean, it was so great. But my problem with it is the future implications. I'm not talking about the numerous number of people who are saying, oh, but Kylo Ren kills everybody at the temple. First of all, Kylo Ren does not kill everybody at the temple. Go check out the video where I talk about the fact that Ben Solo does not kill the people at the temple. But that is not the point. The point is that whatever happened at the temple, the burning of Luke's Jedi temple, is 24 years away. A lot can happen in 24 years, and there is absolutely no way that Grogu stays there for 24 years and dies at the hands of Palpatine, because that's the person who actually did kill the people at Luke's temple. It was Palpatine. Sorry, spoilers for the comic. We also know from the books that there were times when Luke and Ben were traveling alone. There wasn't always students with them. I mean, certainly Luke did have other students, but there were long periods of time when it was just Luke and Ben, and sometimes Lor San Tekka. Now, I know that the movies don't always respect the ancillary media, the comics and the books, but with The Mandalorian, I feel it does. There's been very little that I think contradicts what happens in previous canon. And I think a lot of that has to do with Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni's way too respectful of the Star Wars brand to go too out of what's already been established in the story. So I think that Grogu not actually going to stay with Luke forever. And I think they kind of made it clear that Grogu and Din will eventually meet up again. But it has to be soon, because Din's story without Grogu, I don't know if I'm interested in seeing that. Because with last week's episode, I missed Grogu so much. And I'm not like a Baby Yoda stan where it's just like I need to have him in every single frame of every single episode because it's the Baby Yoda show. I like Din and I like his storyline. But Grogu and Din's relationship is the heart of this story. And I'm not really interested in Din never interacting with Grogu again. Now, that being said, there are some other implications of things that should be talked about. And that is that we had a stinger. For the first time in Star Wars history, we had a stinger. At the end of the credits, there was a scene on Tatooine, Jabba's palace. It was very recognizable. And we see the now very corpulent Bib Fortuna sitting on the dais. Very nice to see Bib Fortuna back again. Seeing quite a bit of Bib Fortuna because there's a lot more of them there. And Fennec Shand and Boba Fett come in and they kill everybody, except for the one Twi'lek dancing girl who Fennec Shand frees. Good for you, Fennec. Thank you for not perpetuating, Twi'lek slavery. But yeah, they kill Bib Fortuna, and Boba Fett takes the throne of Jabba's empire, and we get a note that says the book of Boba Fett begins next December. So what the hell does that mean? Is this a new spinoff? We've got like 9 of them. If this is the case, congratulations, Disney, on having the foresight not to spoil this when you had your investors meeting last week. Because, do you know what? Disney is not, been known to keep things like a secret when it comes to their bottom line. Sometimes they do. Like Baby Yoda, they didn't make any merchandise of him last year. But then you've got situations like spoiling Giant Man for the MCU. Or any other situation where there's news that people have found out. But with this, there are questions because you frame it as the Book of Boba Fett, which sounds like a weird title to me. And if we think about The Mandalorian, how each episode is called a chapter, that makes me think, and I do not want this. I'm just saying that up front. I am saying this because I could see them doing it, but I don't want them to. But if you go back and watch my previous episodes, you will find that I often say, this is what they could do. I don't want them to, but they could do it. And that usually ends up happening. So I feel I must say it. If seasons 1 and 2 were the book of Din Djarin, and then next season, and possibly the next 2 seasons, are the book of Boba Fett, and then you get 2 seasons afterwards, which are the book of Bo-Katan, then you can keep the name The Mandalorian, because the main character in each season is still the Mandalorian. They're very different Mandalorians, but they're all still Mandalorians. And I think you can have some crossover between them. That being said, I do not freaking want that. I do not want that at all, because I like The Mandalorian. I like this show. And Boba Fett as the head of, Jabba's crime empire, this wretched hive of scum and villainy, that's a different show. I don't care if it's still another dude in armor. It's not the same thing. I'm throwing that out there as a possibility, but I do not want that. Now, I'm not saying that I don't want a Boba Fett show. Like, a Boba Fett Fennec Shand show, like, I'm here for it. Like, I love Ming-Na Wen. Boba Fett, super interesting. And, the last couple of episodes. And I would hope that they would keep that up in a new series. Though the thing is, if he's becoming the head of Jabba's crime empire, that's not a version of Boba Fett that I'm interested in following, because I like this kind of Boba Fett with like a code of honor and acting more Mandalorian rather than this kind of mercenary thing. But I don't know, prove me wrong. I wasn't interested in this show when it was first announced, and then I was here for it. But also, like, the thing is, when this show was first announced, I was convinced that it was just going to be a Boba Fett ripoff. And now we are going to get a Boba Fett show. So, is the Boba Fett show going to be what I worried this was going to be? I don't know. But I would like to see the fight for Mandalore, because that still has to happen. We have to have Din Djarin and Bo-Katan figure out a way to work together, and Bo-Katan eventually getting the Darksaber, or maybe not. Maybe it goes to Grogu. I'm still never going to get over the idea of Grogu wielding the Darksaber. But yeah, Mandalore, I think that Din has to be a part of that. Definitely. And I'm not ready to let go of him as a main character. It's not easy enough to just switch out with another helmet. No, that's not the way. That is not the way. So, I mean, like, in terms of this episode, I think I've said everything that I want to say. But just in terms of the season, and maybe I'll do something more of a wrap up when I get time to rewatch it and I can actually think things through. But I found this season to be satisfying yet uneven. I loved almost every single episode when I watched it, and you can go back and watch my reviews and see just how much I liked the episodes of this, except for like one. But when I look at it as a whole, I was talking to my friend today, and kind of, once she pointed it out, I was like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, that's what bugs me about this season. It's not the side quests. Because, I mean, people have complained about the side questy nature of The Mandalorian, where it's like, oh, he has to do the thing, you know, so that he can do this other thing. The side quests aren't the problem. The side quests are fine. The problem are the big lore episodes. If you actually look at them, they don't so much feel like important, deep lore that matters to the Mandalorian. It feels like backdoor pilots. Like, the Bo-Katan episode, I think, is the best, and the whole reason for that is because I think it relates the most to Din as a character. But the Ahsoka episode, and I had a problem with it at the time, was obviously just setting up the Ahsoka series. That entire thing was setting up Ahsoka. And the Boba Fett episode was setting up Boba Fett and Fennec Shand having their own series. And in the end, there really wasn't that much call for them to help rescue Grogu. It was just a matter of, well, let's set these two up so that we can give them their own show. And I like The Mandalorian for The Mandalorian. I like Din Djarin. I like his relationship with Baby Grogu. I like this, and I like these characters, and as much as I love everything else in the Star Wars universe, and I love fan service, I want to get to know other characters more, because you can't hold on to this sense of nostalgia, because, you know, people are always going to complain about, you know, CGIing Mark Hamill, so yeah, you can't do stories about Return of the Jedi era Luke unless you do it in animation, which, by the way, do it in animation because you have Mark frickin' Hamill and he's one of the greatest voice actors of all time. Sorry, off topic. But there's so many things that you can't do, and yeah, we've put the Skywalker saga aside. Like, if Disney is going to make this huge deal about the fact that the Skywalker saga is done, then mean it. Then let's move on to other things. Like, obviously, you guys are putting a lot of eggs on the whole High Republic, you know, basket. But you're only doing that in book, well, not just in book form, but you're doing that in print form. We haven't seen anything from any of, like, the television media. And the television media, a lot of that is in this, kind of post Return of the Jedi era. And it feels like a lot of it is going to be interacting with Skywalker-y things. Like Ahsoka is probably going to have to do with that. Like it's going to have to touch on it a little bit. Would not surprise me if we even got Anakin appearing as a Force ghost, now that we know that Hayden is going to be in the Kenobi series. And while, Boba Fett is not part of the Skywalker saga, except he is a part of the Skywalker saga. He's a major part of the Skywalker saga. So I just would like to step away from all of this stuff. I want to develop new characters, and I think that The Mandalorian has done that with Din and Grogu. I love these characters as much as I love any of the other Star Wars characters. And while I got very excited seeing Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker and think that their initial appearances were fantastic, I think I got more excited seeing the minor characters that, aren't part of the Skywalker saga. Like seeing Cobb Vanth in the first episode of this season, or even Bo-Katan, who is, yes, an important character in the Clone Wars, but not even like a hugely important character. She does have an arc, but she's not, Satine was obviously a more important character to the Clone Wars. And it's still different than like Boba Fett. And definitely different than Luke Skywalker. These are characters that are, from more ancillary media and are smaller characters. And I think there's a lot more to explore there. And yes, I do want to know what happened with Luke. But I don't want that to be at the cost of new characters. And I don't want finding out what happens to Boba Fett to be at the expense of new characters. Because Disney had a tough road to get me to care about Din Djarin. And they did it. They did it really, really well. And I'm not ready to let go of that yet. You can't just replace that with, oh, here's a Boba Fett series. The Din Djarin series was just, getting you, getting all these characters into the right place for their own spin-offs. I don't like how this season has felt like a string of backdoor pilots. They were still good episodes, but it does seem like there was a lot of build-up to things. So, yeah, it's still a great season. But for an overarching storyline, I wasn't really featuring it because it did feel a bit flimsier than the first season. And also give Din back his son, because they certainly want to be together. So comment down below with your thoughts on Chapter 16, The Rescue, and your thoughts on Season 2 in general. And what are your thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett? Are you looking forward to that? Are you not looking forward to that? If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I do videos about Star Wars, Star Trek, Supernatural, BBC Sherlock, Doctor Who, and lots of other geeky things. If you'd like to support me, go to my Patreon, or you can buy me a coffee. You can also go to my TeePublic and Redbubble and buy some of my various geeky graphic designs, many of them on shirts. Today I'm wearing my Fanfic Trope shirt. So, until next time, live long and may the Force be with you. I have spoken.